Guys, today is our day 15 of brooding the birds. And guess what? The birds are growing so fast. Their feeding intake has gone so high. You can see some of the feeders are empty. It is 8 a.m. in the morning, East African time. You know, the birds have now grown, so the pressure that I was having within the first week is no longer there. So I come here like at 8. So you can see the birds are there. 15 days now. Alinga is soon finishing with her brooding, guys. I always have find these soldiers here. I wonder what they can be doing here. Birds are stubborn. And you know, when you take long without removing them, they can even easily die there. Every morning I find them there. Wow. Guys, we are soon waving off the most difficult part in poultry farming, which is brooding. Even the heat, I no longer put it in during the day nowadays, because sometimes when the sun is hot. So I normally put it only in the night. You can see there's some bit of sunshine coming here. I can see some soldiers also inside here struggling. These birds, if you don't remove them, they must even be very careful. You can easily break a bird. So today I want us to talk about the causes of stunted growth in the brooder, because I've realized that in most brooders you find that there are these chicks that are not growing. Actually, it can go to the extent that by the time birds are laying, finds when other birds are still very, very small, have not put on weight. Okay, and actually in the brooder here, I want to be honest, I have this one chick that is small. Let me get it, because I've seen it. This one, okay? You see this chick, it feeds, but it is small. Like if you compare to other birds, and they are like two. They are like two that are small like this, okay? But it feeds well. It is very active. It is also running up and down like the friends, but I see it is smaller compared to other birds, and they are like two, okay? So I want us to look at the causes of stunted growth in the brooder and how you can prevent that in the brooder. Because when these birds don't pick up the right weight, trust me that they will not lay well. They will not lay well. For me, actually, I'm lucky that I have only 2 birds that I see have not picked on weight like the rest. Otherwise, other birds are so big, like you see them, they're very healthy. Even those 2 are healthy, moving up, running up and down, feeding well, but the weight, I think they had a problem. So I want us to look into details, some of the causes of stunted growth in these chicks, and how you can prevent that. These birds nowadays are very stubborn. They escape from here and go out, which is not good. So that is our topic of today. And because very soon we are going to be weighing these chicks, so that we don't get shocked or surprised if some of the birds are not the recommended weight, or other birds are very big compared to others. So I want us we are going to discuss about that. This is, by the way, very important to know, because some of you who are beginners might not be having some of this knowledge that we are going to be discussing today, or might not know that those are some of the causes of stunted growth among the birds. And actually it is worse with the broiler farmers, because with the broiler farmers, remember, you will have these birds only strictly for 4 weeks, at worst 8 weeks, and if the birds don't pick up the weight, trust me that you will not get the right profit that you're supposed to get. That's why some of you start with broilers and they end up failing the project. Now let us go straight to some of the causes of stunted growth in these chicks. The first one is the poor nutrition, okay? Poor nutrition is due to low quality feeds or insufficient starter feeds. You see the feeds that we give to these birds. I told there are different companies that make the starter feeds. Now, like for me, I'm using the pellets. Okay, some people do mix the chick mash, but now me, I prefer using the pellets for the 4 weeks. You find that some companies, you find their feeds are not well. It has some imbalanced diet, like it has low protein, low energy, low vitamins and minerals, which is not good, and it can easily lead to stunted growth among your chicks. And then also make sure that the feeds are not moldy or expired, okay, because it contains some toxins which is not good for these chicks, and it can easily lead to the stunted growth. So feeding in these birds is very, very important from the very first day. That is why I endeavor to give you the feed intake, like immediately when we brought in the chicks. The feed intake I gave you, the amount of feed the birds are supposed to consume each day, each baby chick. So feeding is very, very important. Some of you also end up giving these birds low feeds. They don't give the right amount of feeds, which is also not good for these chicks. And then another cause of stunted growth in the brooder is the improper brooding conditions. If your brooder has very low temperatures, these chicks will end up wasting a lot of energy trying to keep the warmth, which is really not good. Like for us here, the very first night that we had the chicks, I must be honest, our heat was not so good. The house became so cold. By 3 a.m. in the morning, this brooder was too cold. That's why we ended up losing 32 baby chicks, okay? So it is very, very important to have the recommended heat temperatures inside the brooder, okay? Because it will lead to stunted growth in these birds. And then also overheating of the brooder is also not good, because it reduces the feed intake. When the house is very, very hot or very warm, you will come inside the brooder, you will find that the chicks are busy sleeping, like they are not feeding, they are not even drinking the water, because it is very hot for them. So the brooder should even not be too hot. I gave you the temperature ranges that are supposed to be inside the brooder. Guys, let us follow some of those guidelines. And then if the brooder also have poor ventilation, it also leads to stress. I remember one of you asked me that are there some openings inside that brooder? If you look inside my brooder here, at least I have some openings. And then every day you have to open the door. Now, like our door is this side, I formed the door here. So every day at least I open for 10 minutes for some fresh air to come inside. Even when you look up there, you find there are some holes there. Even the other side, you find that the other curtain that I put the other side has holes. So ventilation should also be inside the brooder. It doesn't mean you cover up everything that there is no fresh air coming in. If it is like that, make sure the door, at least in a day, you open it at least for 10 to 15 minutes for this bird to have some fresh air, because that will lead to stress, and later on you will see your birds are having stunted growth. Another cause of stunted growth in the brooder or among these chicks is overcrowding. Okay, now I remember in the beginning so many of you were complaining about the brooder being very, very large, but I remember a few of you also were not agreeing to that, because if you look at our brooder here, you find that according to the standard measures, according to the standard measurement, my brooder is even smaller compared to the number of birds that we have. Because currently we have 682 birds, of which, if you look at the standard measurement of a brooder, you realize that our brooder is even a bit small. So there should not be too many chicks in a small space, okay? Because it will lead to competition of feeds and of water, because at the end of it all you will end up putting very few drinkers and very few feeders, and the birds will be struggling for drinking water and feeds, and which later the birds that are not sharp will have the stunted growth, which is not good for the project, especially for you, the layer farmer who wants the eggs. And then also another cause of stunted growth in the brooder is disease and parasites. Okay, now diseases like coccidiosis, Newcastle disease, Gomboro, Salmonella, and respiratory diseases are always very common inside the brooders. You find that most farmers, actually, even when you check in the comment section, you realize that so many farmers are suffering from coccidiosis. So many farmers end up getting Gomboro disease, end up getting Newcastle disease, end up getting Salmonella inside their brooder. Please, let us make sure that we try to control these diseases from attacking these birds when they are inside the brooder, because at the end of it all, those birds will end up having stunted growth. You feed a bird is not feeding, because sometimes when they are even sick, they will not feed, they will not drink. At the end of it all, your birds will have stunted growth. Now, in the brooder still, sometimes you can have worms, okay, affecting these birds. And also mites. You realize that there are some farmers that their chicks affected by mites. And this normally is brought about when you have the local birds around, the wild birds around, even those who have dogs and they don't clean up their dogs. I am told that these dogs also carry some of these mites, of which later it can easily come and affect the birds inside the brooder. So guys, when you're doing brooding, please, we have to be very, very careful and so vigilant about some of these things, just because we want our birds to grow at the same pace and to pick up the right weight, and so that they lay at the right time. Now, another cause of stunted growth inside the brooder is the poor water management. Okay, you realize that some of you keep on leaving dirty water for those chicks, because when the birds are still young like this, they will not drink like a lot of water. Now you see how I've put the feeder, the drinkers. Okay, what I decided to do is that I don't fill up those drinkers full. Okay, but some of you lazy farmers, you will end up putting water full in the drinkers because you don't want disturbance of all the time coming and washing the drinkers, especially if you have workers who are tending to the brooder. So you'll find that the water that was put 3 days or 5 days ago is still the one that the birds are drinking. That is really not good. If the water is dirty, it carries a lot of bacteria, and sometimes also it carries some of these parasites, so which also can easily lead to stunted growth in your chicks. And then also you find that you will come inside the brooder and drinkers do not have drinking water. Now I came this morning and I found that drinker right there and this one, the water is done. Immediately after this video, I must add the water there, because if you realize some drinkers still have water, but you find that there are some chicks that love to drink water there and here, so that is why you see that one is done. So you must always make sure that even one drinker, when it doesn't have water, clean it up and bring more water. That is very important, because you have chicks that are already used to drinking water in that, because if the birds are not drinking enough water, they will also not end up taking enough feeds, which is typically wrong, and that will lead to stunted growth. And then also another cause of stunted growth in these chicks is the genetic factors. Sometimes you realize that the birds that you have received from these companies probably have very weak or poor quality parent stock. And in that case, there's nothing you can do about it. Whether you feed the birds well, whether you do what, those birds will still have stunted growth. So that is why I say, please, let us try to look for authentic hatcheries to get our birds from, or authentic agents or authentic suppliers to supply us with these chicks. If you just go for any company or agents that are not recommended or are not used by so many farmers, you realize that you will fall in this trap. And guys, it is really so sad and so painful if you bring chicks like this, a bigger number like this, and you're trying to feed them and they do not put on weight. You will find that you have wasted the money purchasing the chicks, done all that is supposed to be done, and yet they are not putting on weight and they're not giving you the production that they're supposed to give. So another one also is hatchery issues, because some hatcheries, some chicks are born when they are small, when they are very weak, with very poor immunity. Okay, that is why I say that when you go to receive these chicks, make sure that you check the birds. If you hold a baby chick like this in your hand, and it takes them like a minute without turning, like you put it upside down, okay, you put it upside down like this. If it takes them like 1 minute without turning back on its feet, that means that baby chick is very, very weak. Okay, that is not good. Try to sort out these chicks on the days of receiving them, because you have to bring in quality birds or quality chicks inside the brooder. If you bring birds that are very weak, that are already looking very sick, like they are going to die the next minute, you're the one going to be losing. So please, let us be very vigilant whenever we go to pick these birds. Let us really be very, very careful of the people who will supply us with these birds. At least go for authentic suppliers, those ones that have been there. Okay, I'm not meaning that those ones that are still new, we should not buy chicks from them, but at least when it is proven, okay? Because this is a business. It is a business that you want to reap something out of it. So when you fall in a trap of wrong hands, you will end up hating the whole project, and at the end of it all, you will waste a lot of money. And then lastly, stress also leads to stunted growth in these chicks. Okay, if there's a lot of noise in the area, if there is the birds are transported from a very long distance. Now, like with my case, the birds were brought from Tanzania, OTZ. Okay, so sometimes also it can lead to stunted growth. Probably that's why I'm telling you that I have 2 or 3 chicks that they are feeding well, they are also active, but you really see they are small. Okay, it's not that they are not growing, they are growing, but not at the same pace like the rest of the birds. But the rest of the birds are really very okay, very like you can enter the farm just like you can see and appreciate. If you see them physically, I swear you will love them. The birds are really so good. So that means the chicks were really good, and leave alone the ones that are not putting on the feathers on the tail like we talked about. That one we said we are going to wait for 4 weeks and we see. But otherwise their feeding is good. You can see the feeders are even empty. Okay, some of the drinkers are already empty. So stress due to too much noise. Now me here, I have a church at my wall the other side. Every day they make a lot of noise for these birds, but I thank God that it is not affecting them. I think they are now getting used to the noise. So here sometimes there can be a lot of noise, lot of shouting, by the way. So when I'm in the farm, in the brooder here, and the noise begins like this, I see they run to one direction, and then later they get used to the noise. That is not good, by the way, because if chicks that are not very, very good, they will end up having stunted growth. And then also frequent handling of birds, like all the time you come, you pick this one, you pick the other one, you throw it down, you pick the other one, you throw it down. It is also not good. It also stresses these birds. And then also another problem is mixing these birds, like of different age groups. Okay, you find that these ones are still young, and again we bring the one for 2 months or 8 weeks, we put them here. It is typically not good with these exotic birds. Even with the local birds, it is not good to mix different ages in one chicken house or in one brooder, because you realize that the ones which are older will end up always consuming the feeds faster than the ones that are still young. So those are some of the causes of stunted growth in these chicks. And this stunted growth, by the way, it is very, very bad for this project. Very, very bad. That is why some of you, your birds reach 19 weeks when they are still not laying, 20 weeks, 22 weeks, 24 weeks, the birds are not laying. And when they start laying, they will even not lay the way they're supposed to lay. Some of you end up not even making it to 90% egg production, simply because most of the birds have stunted growth. Now let us look at how you can try to prevent this stunted growth in your brooder. The first thing that you must do is to provide high quality chick starter feeds, which is at least between 18 to 20% protein. Make sure the feeds are well balanced with minerals and vitamins. This will at least make your birds to grow at the same pace, okay? And then make sure you keep the brooder warm between 34 to 32 degrees centigrades, at least within the first weeks, okay? And then you can keep on reducing gradually. Just like I told you, from today by the day enter the third week, and I told you that inside the pots, I am not going to put the charcoal there or the fire there. I'm now going to be putting it at night, simply because the sunshine is a lot, and you find that even during the day the place is warm, the brooder is warm. It's only at night, and maybe the days that I see it is going to rain, that is when I'll be putting the charcoal inside the pot. So you have to keep on reducing the heat gradually, okay? But the first weeks, make sure that at least it's between 34 to 32 degrees centigrades, okay? Make sure you always purchase these thermometers and put inside your feeder, your brooders, at least to monitor for you the temperatures. And then make sure you maintain the stock density. Don't overcrowd the brooder. At least 10 to 12 chicks per square feet in the first weeks. Please, this is very, very important, because if the brooder is so crowded, you know that there will be a lot of competition for feeds and the drinking water. That is really, and later it can also lead to stress, which will cause you stunted growth. And then also make sure you provide clean, fresh water with probiotics or glucose in the first days. You saw here we were giving probiotics, which helped the birds a lot. So that is very, very important. That will help protect these birds from stunted growth. And then also another thing, you have to deworm the birds using the herbal remedies, because for us here we are using the herbal remedies. Please, this will help the birds a lot. They will not get the worms, and later it will make them to feed well. They will grow well. And then make sure you vaccinate the birds. We have agreed. I remember yesterday someone asked me on the video that I uploaded about the vaccination, how we were doing the vaccination. Someone asked me that I thought you were organic. Then remember that I gave you the chance to vote whether we are going to vaccinate these birds or we do not vaccinate the birds. And 100% of the members all go for the vaccination. So that is why we decided to do the vaccination. So make sure you do the vaccination well and follow the vaccination schedule. This will at least protect these birds from getting some of these chicken diseases, and later the birds are going to grow well. Now, try to reduce the sick or weak birds early to avoid the spread of the infections. If you see the birds that are really very weak, try to remove them out. Now, like for me, I remember I lost 28 birds, but the last 4 birds that made it to 32, I just got them out and threw them out. They were not yet dead, but I was just throwing. 4 of them, I said, this one I will not tolerate. I just threw them out. So whenever you see the birds that are weak, probably maybe they are sick, try to remove them, or you put them in another place and try to monitor them from there, because if you keep them inside the brooder, they will also spread diseases for the rest of the birds. So guys, stunted growth is not good, so we should always endeavor. These birds are stubborn. I think I need to put something on top here to avoid that, because you can end up losing a bird carelessly like that or recklessly like that. When they just fall inside here, you find that they get stuck, they will not feed, which is not good. And you see that most cases those are the very active birds. Then also make sure that you don't be mean with the feeds. Make sure you give the birds the right amount of feeds. Now you see the feeders, some of the feeders are empty and other feeders have feeds. Please endeavor to add the feeds inside all the feeders. The ones that are empty, always try to add the feeds there, because you realize that these birds always love feeding in those feeders, the ones that always get done faster. Actually, what I do here, the feeders that always are empty very fast, I try to put enough feeds inside there. okay, and that is helping me a lot. So I wanted us to know this before we start weighing our birds, because very soon we shall be weighing the birds to see their weight. And for some of you who are soon starting the project, you must have all this knowledge at your fingertips for you to be successful in this project. Guys, I've seen one of these birds. It's the feathers are coming, but I'm seeing it is having a different color. So we are still going to wait up to around 6 weeks and see if it is really a layer. And then also for the ones that I was suspecting them to be male or cocks, we are yet to still find out, because still you see that the feathers are coming very, very slowly. So for today, that is all I had for you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for always coming back. Thank you so much for loving me. But if you're still new, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. Click on the notification bell so that you never miss out any upload. Share this video, comment in the comment section down below, and I'll be so grateful. And don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to comment in the comment section, and don't forget to tell me which country you're watching me from, and I'll be smiling. See you next time. I love you all. Bye bye.